Acts 5, starting with verse 1. But a certain man named Ananias, with Sapphira his wife, sold a possession, and he kept back part of the proceeds, his wife also being aware of it, and brought a certain part and laid it at the apostles' feet. But Peter said, Ananias, why has Satan filled your heart to lie to the Holy Spirit and keep back part of the price of the land for yourself? While it remained, was it not your own? And after it was sold, was it not in your own control? Why have you conceived this thing in your heart? You have not lied to men, but to God. Then Ananias, hearing these words, fell down and breathed his last. So great fear came upon all those who heard these things. And the young men arose and wrapped him up, carried him out, and buried him. Now it was about 3 hours later when his wife came in, not knowing what had happened. And Peter answered her, Tell me whether you sold the land for so much. She said, Yes, for so much. Then Peter said to her, How is it that you have agreed together to test the Spirit of the Lord? Look, the feet of those who have buried your husband are at the door, and they will carry you out. Then immediately she fell down at his feet and breathed her last. And the young men came in and found her dead, and carrying her out, buried her by her husband. So great fear came upon all the church and upon all who heard these things. Disregarding the insight that was given to Peter about how the Holy Spirit had told him that Ananias and Sapphira had lied to him, the big question is, by what process did the Holy Spirit determine that Ananias and Sapphira were lying? Would this not have been perhaps the first New Testament church's example of what we in certain circles refer to nowadays as God's investigative judgment? Namely, watching to see if a person who has supposedly committed himself or herself to the Lord is walking the walk as well as talking the talk. Because in all honesty, that is all that investigative judgment consists of. If you want to really get down to the nitty-gritty, when God has a person claim his name, or when somebody claims to accept Jesus Christ, and according to Ephesians 2:10 is expected to walk the walk, if you will, by doing the good works which God hath before ordained as a result of their salvation by grace through faith, Ephesians 2:8 and 2:9, then God, to cover his own part of the new covenant, has to be sure before the universe that he is properly making a correct judgment of what these people do after they receive their salvation in order to be worthy of a place with him throughout eternity. What good would it be for a person to supposedly accept Christ and continue on in his heathen way rather than having a complete change of heart and direction in his life or her life? They would be making a fool of God if he was going to take them to heaven because at some point in life they claimed, I am saved, but then their lives never showed it from that point forward. This is how Jesus can state in Revelation 22 when he says, prior to leaving heaven and coming back for his own people, all of them, he says in verse 11, he who is unjust, let him be unjust still. He who is filthy, let him be filthy still. He who is righteous, let him be righteous still. He who is holy, let him be holy still. And verse 12 goes on to say, behold, I am coming quickly, and my reward is with me, to give to everyone according to his work. Now this means, in essence, that as Jesus is in heaven, at some point in time, he is making a determination to sort out the unjust and the filthy from the righteous and the holy. Isn't that right? By what process would he be sorting these groups out if it were not for some sort of a investigative judgment of each soul claiming his name? We even find this back in the end of Ecclesiastes. If you go there, the New King James Version, which I am presently reading from, is somewhat different, but not that much, from the King James. Ecclesiastes 12, verses 13 and 14 say, let us hear the conclusion of the whole matter. Fear God and keep his commandments. Incidentally, the word fear does not mean to be afraid of God as much as it means to worship him with awe and respect and honor him as the entity in charge. Fear God and keep his commandments, for this is man's all. The King James says this is the whole duty of man. For God will bring every work into judgment, including every secret thing, whether good or evil. So God, knowing the heart, knows every secret thing about us. How? By keeping his eyes on our activities. Whether or not we claim we have been saved, he, through his investigative judgment of each individual on this earth throughout all history, is able to make an exact determination of who is deserving of sharing eternity with him in his kingdom, as well as who is not, regardless of the claims that they make to each other. May God bless you as his word sinks into your soul, and may his Spirit ever be your guide unto all truth.